So I've been doing a couple videos on this whole item. I'm going to break this one apart because it's not really the same as the other one. Basically, this comes off of an air compressor. That air compressor needs service because I don't understand how it even makes air, to be honest, but it does. So servicing it, and then we are going to put this engine back on it. In the meantime, I don't even know how many hours are on this. Probably a lot. The compression, while there, isn't the greatest, so we're going to do a couple things. One, we are going to put new piston rings in there, work the head a little bit, clean it out, clean up the cylinder, cone it out, of course. Before, there was a problem with spark, and I put in a used coil for the time being because this is a work machine until the person got a different one and they want to use this for a different purpose now, but it's not really needed for another week or two, so it gives me time to do what I want. So put a new coil on there. This carb has been seen better days, and I think I have a new plug for it. And I think that's about it. So it's going to be like a general... That's my name. And some dude across the street's literally in a tree. I'm pretty sure that's like the first rule of dropping trees, is to not be in a thunderstorm, but whatever. I'm sure you can hear the noise. And, you know, just general tune-up parts as well, air filter and stuff like that. So, I mean, let's get this started. First things first, I'm going to take off the carb, the exhaust, the head, then we'll take off the side. I'm not going to show that part. Well, maybe I'll show the head, but I'm not going to show the exhaust or the muffler or the carb. So hopefully you can see this. You see those weird little bubbles? I'm emptying out the fuel. It's actually water. So knowing that, I'm going to dry out the tank, empty out as much as I can, take like a towel, clean it out, take the air compressor, blow it out, and it should be fine. Got the carb off, intake off, all that's off. I mean, just take anything off that's connected, the plate, all that. That's why I took off the side cover as well, because we will be replacing the coil. So let's take off this head. Now, something I noticed, this one's tight, kind of. This one was not. Now that one wasn't. And neither was that one. So this head was being held on with one head bolt that was torqued properly. But it did run, so I need to take off this. This is a heat shield. It's actually pretty important, so you don't want to forget about putting it back on. I like to take the screws that come with it and put it with the actual item. That's generally not too important on some cases, but this one there's one or two that are a little bit longer, so just to make it easier on myself. There we go. That looks pretty good. I do have a kit for this, but if I don't have to use all of it, I don't want to. I did drain the oil and the gas, so let's go ahead and take off the back. We'll start with the piston. Let's take these off. Actually, it's just you. this was used, like I said, as a contractor's piece, so it's probably used for 4-5 hours a day minimum, a couple days a week minimum. And on top of that, the owner works with a lot of concrete. So, yeah. Us might get a little shaky. It's slowly coming off. This side's a little temperamental. I don't want to break the fins. Am I missing one? I'm just not seeing it. No, 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 no. I mean, you're just going to shake it around. I'm going to hit this a little bit more real softly. Got it off. Wasn't easy, but let's take this out. I'll have to take these out in order.
Good job. There you go, Colin.
Like I said, I drained the oil, but it's pretty black in here. So, I'll just twist this. So you can get these out. I told the owner, he recommended what I would do. I said piston and rings. He chose rings. Now, this is probably going to be sufficient, yeah. The piston does have wear over time. I mean, I don't know if this one does. I'm assuming it will. It's a piston. As long as it's not too worn, you can get away with it. And this is a backup machine anyway, so it's not like it's going to be ran nearly as much as it was before. I can't see. There we go. That one's untight. There we go. Now it's loose. And we'll check the wear on the rings. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be replaced anyway, don't get me wrong, but I'm sure it's pretty nasty in there. Basically what you do is you just take the ring off, put it in the bore, and with the feeler gauge you measure the gap thickness, Yeah, maybe I won't because I need to get this to him within another day or two, so. Well, I want to. I'm leaving, so he doesn't need it, but I need to get out here. And let's see here. Ooh, they came out flying. So, I can tell already that's pretty bad. So when looking at it, you could definitely see a little wear. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But everything seems to be okay. There's nothing inherently wrong. It's just, it would be better just having a new piston, but he doesn't really want to. So we're not going to worry about it. That's one of the rules. You want to do what they want. At least that's one of my rules. So, first one I put on is this waffle ring. Now these are either way, just put them on. These are the easy ones, per se. But the hard part is sometimes they like to go in grooves that they shouldn't. So yeah, have to kind of guide them in the right place. There we go. Next is this waffle one, or I don't really know what it would be called, but it's not connected, so more likely than not it's going to be a little bit like that. This one can be a little bit of a pain to put in, mainly because you have to kind of finesse it. Okay, hold this down, try this again. Took out the corresponding one of these out, and I put in the second one, and then I just put this one back in. So I'm hoping this could be more or less the same, except on the bottom. Okay, there we go. So that is the oil ring. There's these little passages, as you can see in there if you for it to look if I were to show you. And it just kind of helps lubricate everything and make sure everything's good to go. So these are the old ones. The new one comes in silver and black. And if you look at it, they have a slight angle on the end. And if you look up the manual, the angle actually should be facing up. So, like this. Sometimes these pliers are just too big, but let's just see if it happens here. Putting piston rings in is never easy. Taking them out is a whole lot easier with this. You want to be very careful. These can break. If it breaks, that's the whole reason why we took it apart. Huh. Okay, well, it's not where we want it to go. We'll just continue to move it. But now I think we can use this a lot easier. No. Come on, you ring. Wow. That was rough. But got it in there, damage free. Needs to be cleaned. But something to bring up before I install it and before I start honing too is you don't want this. See how they're in the same spot? No. You want this like the opposite side. If it was in the same compression and gases and everything can seep through, and as right now it would have to go through all the way around to the other side to then go back in the crankcase. So that's how you want to keep them. So I'm going to start honing. We'll get this piston installed. I showed this before, but there's a generous amount of oil on both these stones and the bore. There we go. So we're just gonna do this. Now when you stop this, you don't want to stop it in the actual cylinder. You want to pull it out. I know. Ha ha ha, funny. But you also don't want to do this unless you have a lot of scratches. Well, not a lot of it at least. You should always do this if you're installing new piston rings and a piston, or a piston. Well, it should always be and a piston. But this creates little, I don't want to say scrapes, but little passages for the oil to go, and it kind of just cleans up the bore. Like that. See? What you'll see is these little cross-hatching marks, like this kind of X's everywhere. That's what you want. So now let's install the piston. So there's those tasks that I'm pretty good at and tasks I'm not. I've oiled this spring compressor, so the piston was cleaned, oiled appropriately. I put oil in the actual bore as well. So now what you want to do is remember how it came out, or the arrow should be facing down, whichever one's easier for you. Let's see if I could do this without reaching over a camera. And there we go. That ring compressor can really save you. Now I'm going to look up the torque specs for putting the connecting rod back on, and then we will do that. I'm going to oil this up. Already oiled right there. There we go. Now, yours is going to be different. According to the manual for this engine, well, if you're doing a GX120 as well. Now, this process is the same for pretty much all engines, but you know, the variances will be this. But basically, I have to go to 9 foot-pounds. So if you think about it, let's completely just mess this one up. There we go. Ew. So 9 foot-pounds. Where were we? Anyway, so 9 times 12. What's 9 times 12? 108. At 108 inch-pounds, which is what the torque wrench that I have, that would be the most, well, the smaller one that I would want to use for this. I'm just going to do 110, but I'm not going to do it all at once. Start at 60, work my way from there. Maybe 20 pounds each, going back and forth until I get to 110. That's really boring, so I'm just going to do that right now. Got everything done. I installed the cam. Now, this one's easier. This big mark, it's the timing mark. There's a tiny, small little pinhole right here. That's the timing mark on the crank. So you just want to make sure they're aligned. And they are. Because if you're one tooth off either direction, you're either going to be firing the piston too early or too late. Too early, you can damage the motor, rip the cord out of your hand, basically the equivalent to spark knocking. Too late, piston's on its way down and then goes, and so you'll have a significant loss of power. Maybe not one, but you get the point. You want to be pretty much on the mark. So this is probably going to be the last time. Oh, I also did put the tappets in too. Probably going to be the last time that this is going to be here. I'm going to put everything back together. I have other videos on how to gap coils. I'm putting the new carb on, all that stuff. So next time you see this, it should be running with a completed compressor, which, well, look for my video on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to take this gasket off, take the gasket off the other one, put the new gasket on, and yeah, hopefully we'll get it running here shortly. So as I'm putting the cover on, I realized I completely glossed over this. You should always, since we took everything apart, putting the head on, torqued it down to the specs listed on the manual, you should always check your valves. this case, because it was loose, is actually really tight. So when I spun it over, it had very little compression. I was looking at it in the original, the first time I was turning it over to really move the valves around so I can check and make sure the push rods and everything were seated correctly. But as soon as I adjusted them, this thing is a whole lot more compression, let's just put it that way. So make sure you adjust the valves when you do this. I made 2 videos on this. Let me check. Okay, yeah, that's good. One for the Honda, one for the compressor. I suggest you check out both, but let's go over what we did on the Honda. New coil, air filter, carburetor, piston rings. I guess it'd be easier to do that. So 4 things, you know, plus honing, valve timing, and all those usual things you should be doing anyway. Compressor head, brand new kit, new piston rings. I did not show, but I did hone it. Cleaned it up. So when you get everything, this comes out of it, but you don't want to keep that. So it comes with its own pieces. But the head and the actual cylinder does require some cleaning. And the gaskets do look like they're okay, but trust me, they look like they're okay until you actually touch them and they fall apart like just no one's business. So, when looking at it, I did forget these. Oh well, I'll put that on later. So, what do we do now? We're going to test it out. So this is going to be for the ending for both videos. The Honda and the pressure, the air compressor. So we're going to check both. It has fresh oil, a non-ethanol fuel. Let's give it a try. Fuel's on. You know what? While that primes itself, I'm going to put this plate on. Okay.
Okay, now, turn around.
Let's give it a try. Somehow I got the orientation of the pressure head about 90 degrees off. Don't know what happened, but let's give it a try now. Redid it, put it back where it should be, see if it builds pressure and runs. Leave that open. No. Okay, well. Try. Okay, I think we got it. Well, there we have it. Like you see, definitely subscribe, put a thumbs up, put a comment if you have any questions, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later. Hey everyone, so I wanted to wrap this up and a little better than I did before. I was looking at it and I decided to put an addendum to it. So yeah, like I said, this is the ending of 2 videos. Check out the other one if you're watching the Honda one. Check out the compressor one. If you're watching the Honda, check out the compressor. If you're watching the compressor, check out the Honda. But basically, they're both new rings. Everything's good to go. It runs good. What you saw was when it first gets up to about 125 psi, I think it's set, or maybe 120. The gauge is a little foggy. It looked a little higher than 120, but it could just be a bad gauge. I don't know. But this little mechanism then puts it to idle, and then it just never really builds any pressure. That's why it went down. That's actually pretty important, because if your car was dirty, it might die. The problem that this guy was having before is that there's so much oil going from the pump into the actual area where it builds up pressure into the compressor head that it was hydrolocking almost, and it was stopping the engine when it was on idle. So that's what kind of prompted this whole thing. The reason why you see wheels is I'm going to be welding a cart up. This is going to be a backup one. He already bought a new one, but if he needs to take it to a smaller job site, he can. If he needs to pressure his car tires up, he can. You know, at least he'll have a cart, because lifting that thing is a little cumbersome if you have to carry it a long distance, especially if you have to carry other stuff. So with a cart, at least you can put a hose on there. I'll put a little elbow and have a little area to hang a hose, so it should be nice. Okay, well, that's going to be the end of this one. If you have any questions, like I said, definitely subscribe, put a thumbs up, tell your friends. I'll be making quite a bit. Summer is coming and spring is in full force. I have literally the entire side of my house full of projects now, so there'll be many of weekends and evenings and Wednesdays full of work. Those are times I usually make videos, so definitely keep on the lookout. Yeah, guess that's about it. Have a good night, and I appreciate you watching.